People can say whatever they want about Prometheus because now Tootles is officially the dumbest character in the entire Alien franchise. He has taken up the mantle. It's no longer debatable. And rest in peace, I guess. With Alien Earth Episode 6, I really enjoyed this episode, though I will admit off the bat that a lot of ridiculously convenient things happened in rapid succession in order to get us to the finale of the episode, which of course zooms in on the eyeball creature inside the body of the sheep as Keep Away by Godsmack plays in the background in the most menacingly way possible. And it did my little early 2000s millennial rock metal fan heart proud to have that featured there. So that was wonderful. I do got to say that I really enjoyed this episode, and during the course of watching it, I was excited and enthralled at every step of the way. It's only really after the episode ended where I was kind of thinking, wow, there's a lot of convenience happening here in order to get us from point A to point B. But I do also understand that the entire series is only going to be 8 episodes long, and this is episode 6. So that means we only have 2 episodes left. And because of that, I do feel like things are on a speed run getting us to the eventual climax, which is a little bit disappointing. I kind of wish this series had at least 10 episodes, maybe up to 13 or more. So because of that, I do slightly give it the benefit of the doubt. And also, I think there is enough interesting stuff to digest and talk about in this episode that I can kind of, put in the background some of the stupid decisions characters made here. But let's go one by one and talk about some of the pieces of the puzzle that are happening here in this episode. This episode brings us back into the present to catch up on what the other characters were doing. We did have the birth of a xenomorph at the end of episode 4 that encountered Wendy, and she was able to kind of use the clicks and tones and what she kind of, inherited or downloaded or absorbed from the way that the aliens communicate with one another, and she was able to kind of calm it down in a very strange way, leading to the question of what kind of connection does she have with these creatures. Although that is not really answered, we just kind of go further with the idea that she's able to mimic and recreate the sounds that they make, making the creatures curious, kind of look at her strangely, and they were able to capture the creature and put it behind in one of the creature cells, and it does grow exponentially. I was a little bit curious, a little bit worried in the beginning because it shows the xenomorph being very small, and as we know from the movies, these creatures grow in a matter of hours, basically, up to full size. And so I was like, all right, how much time is actually passing here? Because at the same time, we have Cavalier and Kirsch heading to talk to Yutani of the Weyland-Yutani Company about what's going to happen with their crashed ship. So I was just wondering how much time was really taking place. But throughout the course of the episode, we actually see the xenomorph getting bigger and bigger. So I'm assuming this is all happening relatively at the same time. I also want to talk about the character of Nibs. She was the one that said that she was pregnant previously, even though that's impossible. And she's coming up with all these various coping mechanisms. And she even might be on the verge of a breakdown to where she becomes violent to those around her. And so you wonder, what is the contingency that Prodigy has for one of these experiments that doesn't work or goes haywire? And we have one of the company guys say that he wants to erase Nib's memory up until before the crash. So this is yet another thing that they have control over of all the children that are here in these synthetic bodies, proving once again that they have no real autonomy over themselves and that they are going to be used as tools, as weapons, as a showcase of what Prodigy can do. They are the first wave of whatever this experiment is going to be, and because of that, they are property and can be used however Prodigy wants to use them. And they can go in and manipulate things, just like they turned Wendy's hearing down when they were trying to figure out the communication with the aliens. And now we are saying that they can actually go in and take out bits of memory or huge chunks of memory, which memory is one of the main things that makes us who we are as people. It's one of the things that makes us human, because experiences lead into our personality and changes in our personality, and experience over time gives us wisdom and it helps us grow. Like we are supposed to hang on to these memories, even though, of course, you get older and then you start to forget a lot of shit like I do, but you know what I'm saying. And so if they can just go in whenever they want to and then take out bits and pieces of her memory, what does that mean for the eventual future of all of these kids? And it doesn't even seem to be debatable. One of the scientists, Arthur, gets fired because he refuses to wipe Nibs's memory. And it's legitimately like, you're done. You're done. You're fired. You have to leave. You obey company orders or you're out. And he's the only one that seems to have this sort of, definitive moral code of saying, like, I'm not going to do this to them. And he really suffers consequences in this episode. But first, it's just getting fired. So they do that, and Nibs wakes up, and here's the part that I think is kind of dumb, is, okay, they wipe Nibs's memory, which is something that I, would have assumed could be a possibility here, but they don't inform any of the other children that they did that. So when she wakes up, the first thing Wendy says is, hey, are you okay from, saying that you were pregnant and the stuff that we experienced on the ship? Like, literally, the first thing Nibs hears when she wakes up is all of the stuff that she's forgotten. Now, I could imagine as a major plot point of a character that had their memory wiped, that at some point in time, something is going to get brought up from the memory wipe that's going to make her question what happened to her and then have her go off the deep end once again. That's perfectly fine and makes sense for the story. But the fact that they didn't, specify to the other characters, hey, don't bring up anything that happened because we're going to wipe her memory. Like, did they expect the kids never to say anything about it? They're children, for God's sake. Like, of course they're going to bring it up. This is the one big shared experience that they've had together. So it's just insane to me that they wouldn't think of the possibility that they would bring it up to Nibs at some point in time. And it happens pretty much immediately. So that's something that's just really hard to wrap my mind around. I like the premise of the idea of what they're doing, of what they're going for, but the logic of it doesn't line up when at any point in time, any of these kids could mention something about the wiped memories. Unless they just straight up don't care that happens, but then that's going to lead to potential of Nibs going crazy again. So I don't know, just a weird thing. We also have a face-to-face discussion that happens with Yutani of Weyland-Yutani and Cavalier of Prodigy. And behind them both, they have their right-hand men. You have Morrow on one side and Kirsch on the other. And man, do they have a great back and forth. There's a scene when they're in the elevator together and they're insulting each other. Morrow saying that he's an old model and something to be disregarded. And Kirsch saying, mocking and making fun of him, that he's not all human and not all machine, doesn't know what he is. Morrow talking about how he likes to kill synthetics because they can't feel pain. Like, all of this shit going down. So there's going to be some kind of confrontation between these two. But even before that, we have Cavalier coming into the business meeting, no fucking shoes on, Tarantino wet dream here as he puts his dirty feet on the countertops, as he just doesn't care. His defense is that her ship crashed in his territory. Now, we know that he sabotaged it and made this happen, but he orchestrated it in a way where he could argue that her ship not only crashed into his territory, but killed his people, like people that lived there. It crashed right into the middle of a building, destroyed infrastructure, took a lot of lives. And so it's definitely Weyland-Yutani's responsibility. And with that, Yutani doesn't have a lot of recourse other than saying, we're going to pay for the damages, pay for the pain and suffering, but we just want our artifacts back. And there is some kind of quarantine rule as to where, they can't be returned, I think for like a 6-month window or something like that. Some kind of loophole that Cavalier is exploiting. So he's willingly admitting, yeah, there were specimens on board. Yeah, we have them. But because of quarantine laws, you can't get them back until we've figured things out in a 6-month period. And by that point, he's going to do all the research he needs to on them, keep the ones that he wants, most likely. And at that point, it won't matter because Weyland-Yutani will be so far behind because not only does he have the new synthetics that can transfer consciousness, but then he's also going to have all the research and data and probably still keep specific specimens of all the alien creatures. So he walks in with an insane amount of confidence because he has all of the leverage here. Now at the lab, we have Wendy's brother who is trying to figure out a way to get the two of them out of there. Has an awkward conversation with Wendy, who brings up the fact that she might not want to leave because she's very invested in this alien thing now with the communication that she has with the xenomorph, which is a little bit strange and something that's not really dived into, I think, enough in this episode to really get a gauge on what she's thinking. But now she's having reservations about leaving, and so her brother's trying to figure out what he can do. There is a great scene, and one that I actually think is a lot smarter than most of the decisions that characters make in this episode, where Wendy's brother goes to Arthur, who has been fired, and asking him about the well-being of Wendy. If she was left there, is she actually going to be okay? And he knows that they're being recorded. He knows that their audio is being picked up. He can't tell him the truth. So he's like, you know, if you want to see Wendy's vitals, I'll show you her right now. I can log onto the computer and show you. And basically when he gets over there, he shows Wendy's brother this access code to the boat for them to escape and exactly where to go, giving him the right information for him to get out of there. Now, the tension that was building up here is because of Slightly. Slightly is the character who Morrow has been talking to inside of his head, slowly manipulating him since they got back to have somebody be implanted with the alien, to bring somebody to the xenomorph egg, to have the facehugger go onto them so that they will have something to bring back to Weyland-Yutani. And he's threatened Slightly's family in the process, basically, you know, just psychologically defeating him, because at the end of the day, this is a guy with lots of experience and he's talking to and manipulating a child. So kind of just a walk in the park for Morrow, especially with all the stuff we know that he's willing to do. So the big question was, who was Slightly going to bring to the alien egg? And it was kind of answered in a few episodes ago, where he was going to get Wendy's brother and bring him. And so this whole episode, he's trying to get Wendy's brother to go with him, trying to get him to walk with him, but he's awkward. He's not manipulative. He doesn't have the right words to use to say, hey, let's go look at this thing. He doesn't know how to do it. He's a kid. But of course, it would be way too convenient for him to actually get Wendy's brother to be the victim. And so this bait and switch happens, where we have a completely unrelated event that will tie into that story. As Kirsch is not there right now because he's with Cavalier during this business meeting, he has Tootles go to the lab and feed the creatures. It's their daily feeding time, right? And I have several thoughts about this scene. So Tootles goes into the lab by himself. He could have had somebody go with him, but he wanted to be the man. You know, he wanted to kind of step up and show that he's capable of doing these things. He's been trying to impress Kirsch for the last couple of episodes, so he goes in by himself to try to do it. He opens the little feeding door where the eyeball creature is still in the sheep, just staring the entire time. So great, so great. You know, puts the food in, closes the door opens on the other side, no big deal. But then he comes to the door to a creature that I don't believe that we've seen yet. And they're these little fly creatures that are up inside of this hive or cocoon that's been kind of built on the side of the cage. And he goes to open the door to put the food in, and the door rips off. Now, my first question is, why would the door rip off so easily? I don't think it's because he just doesn't know his own android strength at this point. I mean, he opened the other doors just fine. This is a major scientific laboratory, so would it actually be malfunctioning like that? Or maybe it was orchestrated. I don't know. I'm not even saying I'm going with this theory. I'm just throwing it out there because Kirsch is watching everything on the video screen. And he's watching this go down, and he doesn't say a goddamn word. And even when Cavalier asks him if everything's going all right, he just says affirmative. Now, I don't know if Kirsch is specifically planning to betray Cavalier, if he has his own agenda, but I got some serious David vibes from him in this episode. Throughout the whole show, I have been. But in this episode in particular, it really seems like he is doing something else behind the scenes, or he has that natural curiosity, just like David had, to want to take that extra step, to want to see how far they can push it, to want to see how much they can discover, that kind of never-ending chain of discoveries of humans creating androids and then androids wanting to create something else. And so I don't know if they're going with like a similar route as David in Prometheus and Covenant, because I've heard many times that the creators of the show aren't going to touch on those movies at all. But nothing in it has been really contradicted yet, and Kirsch really does seem to have the same type of demeanor and kind of is like a placeholder for the role of a character like David. So I'm not saying Kirsch made it so that the door would break. But what I am saying is, if he did, I'm not going to be surprised at this point. But instead of Tootles just being like, hey, Kirsch, the door broke, what should I do? Or just not feeding the creatures that day, I'm sure they could survive one day without food. It's probably not a big deal. Instead, what he decides to do is unlock the door and go in himself, trying to prop the door open with his foot. I'm telling you, man, you know how much shit I got for years for loving Prometheus, and everyone's like, man, the characters in that movie are so stupid. And I've had to defend that movie. And I'm not saying that they don't do stupid things in the movie. That's kind of a trope of horror to begin with. Sometimes characters have to do stupid shit to get the ball rolling. But I will say, after Tootles did this, no longer can anybody say the guy that reached out to touch the snake in Prometheus is the dumbest character, because now Tootles has taken the top spot. He wins the award, #1 medal, dumbest character in the entire Alien universe. I think that has to be said. And the Flies got an assist from the eyeball creature inside the sheep next door. He just headbutts just slightly, just enough to make Tootles kind of like jump and take his foot off the door, and the door slams closed. And then he's stuck inside the cell with the flies. So I love that little assist. The fly creatures are interesting. I think they are the first species to specifically go and attack one of the synthetics. So the fly creature lands on his arm first and then spits this kind of like acidic property in his face that starts melting his face. Really cool CGI effect. In a series that's had so many great practical effects, I thought the CG of the melting face looked great. And it's the first time we've really seen a synthetic attack this way, and a first major character death. So goodbye, Tootles. You really made a dumb decision. But it's because Tootles died that Arthur sees that he's offline, and before he can leave, he goes to see what's wrong. And again, dumb decision. Why would you go in there? You can tell that the man is dead. But for some reason he does. And because he does this, not only does the fly get out, because obviously it would fly out, but we have Slightly there, who is conveniently noticing there is now a live human being right next to the alien eggs, which he needs to have implant itself into somebody so that his family will be safe. He wanted to choose Wendy's brother, but this opportunity is too good to let go. And he does it, and I like the way that he does it, because it's in the way that a child would. He doesn't like push Arthur into the cage. He just opens it. He opens it and lets the alien do its thing, and he hides in the background. And that's just a very, like, I don't want to say cowardly because we're dealing with a kid here, but it's like, it's the most hands-off way of making this horrible thing happen, you know? And it does. And the face hugger gets out. Arthur is grabbed, implanted, and Slightly, tries to get him out through the vents just before the fly creature comes out towards him, which we know now the fly creature would have attacked Slightly given the opportunity. So creatures that are loose, we have the flies that spit the acidic stuff out. The eyeball creature is still locked up. The plant creature is still locked up. Our xenomorph is still locked up, but the xenomorph egg container is open. And if one facehugger comes out, then maybe the others will too. Now, traditionally, the eggs don't really open up until they sense some kind of biological life form nearby. So I don't know. I don't think that all the facehuggers would just like come out and start running around. But if the science lab door becomes opened and, people are running in to see what happens, I don't think it's going to be very long before all hell breaks loose. And I think the creature that's going to survive the whole show is the eyeball creature. I think the T. Acellus, however you pronounce it, it is going to be the thing that is still on Earth, that's still around after all of this goes down. I can just tell right now it's always going to be watching, always observing, and always waiting to throw down with a xenomorph again, because I don't think that fight is over either. And like I said from the beginning, I don't think that Prodigy is going to last to the end of the series. I think this series is basically about the collapse of Prodigy. I don't think Prodigy will exist when the show is over, and I think Weyland-Yutani will pick up another territory, and that's part of how they become bigger and bigger. So that's my theory. As far as Kirsch, all I'm going with right now is maybe he is just excited to see what happens. He has that natural kind of next wave of curiosity similar to David. Maybe not. Maybe he's thinking about switching sides. I don't know. I really don't know. He has me very curious. And my favorite character, Morrow, was not in this episode very much, but his presence is still felt, and we know that his strike is coming soon. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Tell me what you thought about Alien Earth Episode 6. Did you like it? Did you not like it? How are you with some of the decision-making characters had in this episode? But I do think there was a lot of good stuff here, and I'm super stoked for the final 2 episodes. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Leave your thoughts, theories, ideas. Please give the video a thumbs up and a like, man. I could really use the help on the channel right now. Most of the videos are not doing too well at the moment, so any help, any love, any support, if you guys want to join the Patreon or channel memberships, even $1 a month goes a long way. I'm working on a giant Hellraiser retrospective right now, and I'm uploading the progress of that as I make it on Patreon. So some incentive, if you want, you can see the videos early there for just $1 a month. Whatever you guys want to do. At the bare minimum, just watching the videos, liking and commenting is enough. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. And for the Alien Earth fans, I'll see you next week.